Hi, Anil. Welcome to Me After Work. You Don't Know What You Don't Know. That's the name of our podcast. Anilji,
Yeah,
welcome.
okay. Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
and really, I should explain the purpose of the podcast is, we all have our own bubble or ceiling, things that we're aware of based on our
Mm,
environment, our study, our experiences. But until something happens, it increases that and increases our awareness, and that's where the title came. You don't know what you don't know until you meet someone and they give you different perspective on a way of thinking
yeah,
or
yeah,
being or
yeah,
living
yeah.
or
Yeah,
happiness,
yeah,
which is what we're going to speak to you
yeah,
about.
yeah. But while you are talking on, you don't know until you don't know. Just look at it. Isn't that just our natural experience? See, until you see that the truth is that anything becomes a living part of us only when we experience it, isn't it?
I know.
I
Do
mean,
you,
even if you look at a small child, until you, like my granddaughter is there, until I give her the bottle with the milk in it and thrust it into her mouth, how is she going to experience how to suck it,
well, you know what?
right?
I've been making bread in this time, and I said to my dad, like, with very innocently, I said, now I understand why bakers get up so early. Like, now I understand it. He goes, what? He looked at me as if I was an
Yeah,
idiot. He goes, what? You didn't understand
yeah,
it before that? And I go, look, I did
yeah,
understand it, the theory, but not actually when you're doing it. It's a whole different thing.
mm,
And
mm.
sometimes, no matter what people tell you, until you experience it yourself,
That's correct. Yeah,
it's so
yeah,
different.
yeah.
So this is kind
And
of
you've got,
just to trigger or prompt
yeah,
something,
yeah.
within us.
But you see, always one should try and look at things at the universal level, because I always say the more you connect with nature, the more you will know. You know what we call as the open book of nature. But that's how nature has created human beings. That you cannot avoid this process of knowing, and knowing is directly connected with experiencing, isn't it?
Do you know what? That is so good. You cannot avoid knowing.
Yeah, because
It's, even though
we don't
sometimes we
actually.
try really hard to.
Yeah, but the thing is that that's what we are here for, in space and time. Whatever you do, right? Even look at this, even in this recording that you're doing, you're going to put some questions to me, but then I'm trying to know what your questions are and then try and answer them, right?
Yeah.
This is a very this is a very basic thing which runs right through the human nature. If knowing is not there, then basically we are functionless. Look at it.
But what is knowing though?
Knowing is to know things, to know about this world,
Oh,
to
okay.
know about yourself, right? Basically, through knowing you experience, right? Where when we talk about one's spiritual journey, right? You've got to look at. I always say, what is changeless? First, look at that. Until you know what is changeless, you will not understand what is changing, right? Now, knowing is actually a changeless attribute in human beings. That's how we are built. Whatever you may do, you may become Jesus, or you may become Ramana Maharishi, or you may become that great sage from Bulgaria, Master Bianca Juno. You may become the Buddha. But even then, you see, even at that level, knowing continues, right?
Mm.
Look at it, right?
You
And
said
that's
about,
that's what I'm that's what I'm connecting with what you're saying as experiencing. You see, it becomes a bit more simpler there. Whatever you do in your awake state, you're always experiencing, whatever it may be, good or bad, doesn't matter.
just, you said about universal thinking or knowing or, and
Yeah,
connecting with, nature.
yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? What is universal versus not universal?
Well, you see, that's very simple actually. You know the two terms, macrocosmic and microcosmic, right? So, okay, let's do an exercise, practically, so that, Celeste can be very clear what this is. You see, now here at our microcosmic level, now you are there, recording this through Zoom, this particular podcast, right? So this is at the microcosmic level because it is between Celeste G and Anilji, right? But then on the other hand, look at it, you see, you have got what you call your individual or own nature, but then you see, you have also got your higher nature, or what is your universal nature. Basically, we don't pay any attention to this, but look at the light of consciousness that flows through you, right? Now, when I say that this light of consciousness flows through you, just if you would sit for even 30 seconds or even 1 minute and just, bring your attention, to this light of consciousness actually flowing through you. The beauty is you are actually able to bring your attention to this light of consciousness, right? And what you find is that this is an ever expanding consciousness in which, as you are sitting, though you are not trying to look at that, but this entire view of 270 degrees around you is there in front of you, isn't it? And then suddenly, if I say, Celeste, think of the sun, think of our moon, think of our planetary system, think of our solar system, right? Or think of our galaxy, the Milky Way, and our galaxy has got like 100,000 suns. Can you see that even the view of that is within your consciousness, whether it is at a visual mental level, or it is at an emotional level, or it is at the physical level? But really, when you look at it, you see this entire universe is nothing but it has to have space and it has to have time, right? Because if there is no space, there is no time, then there is no universe, right? But can you see that your consciousness seems to expand beyond this space and time? You can just sit down for 1 minute and actually look at it. So there is this Celesti's, what we call as individual attention, or your microcosmic level attention, and then there is this universal attention as well, right? This universal consciousness. So that is what I actually mean, that both the things are simultaneously present, right? And both are provided by nature, but this universal consciousness, or which actually is the reality, right? One hardly pays any attention to that, though it is present all the time, but it's very subtle. And that's basically, if you look at all the scriptures or the great sages, that's what they've been teaching to mankind,
So is it a knowing interconnectedness?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's a very good term. It's a knowing interconnectedness. You can call it that.
And right? You can't kind of work it out, but you kind of know it when you allow time, if it's to sit for 30 seconds or a minute. And that's why universal thinking will serve the greater versus just the individual if you come out of it.
Yeah, look, this is basically, the thing is just that one is the universal witness, right? The universal witness is actually this reality or that consciousness. Because tell me, what is there in this universe which is not within your own consciousness? Experiment with it as much as you want. This statement never ever can actually go wrong, because that's really what it is. Because for this person called Celeste to do anything, can you see one thing? That consciousness precedes whatever you do. I mean, don't you have to be conscious of whatever actually you're doing? So look at it very carefully, right? So consciousness, being conscious, is a changeless entity present within us. And that actually is the reality, right? I mean, if I take it to the level of Jesus, or I take it to the level of, say, Krishna, both of them are very elevated beings. Could they actually do anything without being conscious of what they were doing? They can't. You have to be conscious of whatever you're doing. That's the only way we function in space and time. So this is actually called universal witness, right? I mean, this leads on to other interesting questions.
Yeah, I think let's wait a second.
Yeah.
Absolute happiness. Okay, you've got a podcast on absolute happiness. What is absolute happiness?
So, look, we are actually in such a time that now every individual really has to decide where does he want to go, right? And let me take it in terms of this new, the Hindus call it the Satya Yuga, or the age of truth, and in the West it is very well known as the golden age, right? So this golden age actually which is coming, it is going to work on only one attribute which you call as uh, unconditional happiness, or what you call as absolute happiness. Now look at it. Unconditional happiness is, you see, where there are actually no conditions. How does a normal human being actually function? You see, when you look at yourself carefully, right, you've got to be very, very honest in this. We actually function based on our emotions, right? And basically the emotions are directly linked with personal desires, right? And personal desire is directly linked with personal judgment, right? If you like something, you will go for it, and if you reject something, you will just let it go. Nothing wrong in that. But the thing is this, that you see, most of the time, more than 90% of the time, if you're very honest to yourself, you're actually functioning with a very selfish perspective. Doesn't matter how subtle it is, right? So that aspect is now going to be thrown away completely by nature. And basically what we are calling as unconditional happiness is a happiness in which, you see, which is not conditioned by an individual's personal judgment. And that actually is directly linked with what we call as unconditional love, right? So it is really not costing us anything. We can have selfless unconditional love for everyone and for everything, and still continue to function in whatever way we are actually functioning, right? And that basically, you see, is real happiness, because it is not subject to one's personal objectives or personal desires and
So,
personal
how do
judgment,
you
right?
discern between the two? Selfish happiness versus
Yeah.
just in a normal day, normal person versus selfless happiness.
Well,
Like
I mean,
in practicality. Um,
yeah, you see, no, this is the thing. That is actually where we come down to the pathway. But to answer your question, right, in very, very simple terms, right, you see, where there is actually personal judgment, personal motivation, and we are only after our own ends, right? So that is basically what we call as relative happiness, which is actually temporary, which is only conditioned by the object of our desire, right? So this relative happiness, it comes and goes. Now what happens is that if the object of your desire is not fulfilled, what will happen? You'll feel angry, you'll feel abandoned, you will feel sad, isn't it? All these negative impressions, they come upon us, right? Whereas what I'm talking about unconditional happiness is that it is not dependent upon the objects of an individual's desire. It does not come
okay.
and go, right?
So if I
Now,
go through my day and I do my work, whatever I have to do,
yeah,
and I'm not affected by emotions or not trying to do
yeah,
something that's going to make me happy or not do something because I think it's going to make me sad, but just go with the flow of the day, is
yeah.
that unconditional happiness?
That is unconditional happiness. That is correct, right? But then the question arises is that how many people can actually do that? And how many people are actually in that state, right? That is actually unconditional happiness. Because you see, when you look at, okay, look at how, say, Jesus is very well known in the West, right? And in our present times, Ramana Maharishi is very well known in the East, right? And then my own Maharishi, Master Abhayan Sarjuno, who was from Bulgaria, he is also quite well known. When you look at these people, right, you study the life of any of these great sages, right, and every human being everywhere still follows them, whether you're a Muslim or you're a Jew, or you're a Hindu or you're a Christian. You see, look at one thing. They were not affected by even whatever misery is actually inflicted upon them. And exactly what you're talking about, that if I go about my day and I'm not affected by anything, that is actually absolute happiness. Because what you're doing is that you act spontaneously, right? You act upon what is actually around you and what requires to be undertaken in that, right? I mean, there is a much higher principle further to understand on that, which is called the principle of contradistinction, right? And what you call as, the day-to-day functioning, right? Or contradistinction and judging, right? But leaving that aside, in very simple terms, that is actually absolute happiness, that which is not conditioned by our personal, in particular, in brackets, selfish desires linked to our emotions.
Do you think that the more that we practice this, the better we get at it?
Absolutely. I mean, anything that you do as you started, you will not know till you know, isn't it?
Mm. I guess the challenge is to not have conditions around it. The practice, because it takes you.
No. Look. The thing is just that we are conditioned.
Because it's kind of contradicts it.
This is no. We cannot be theoretical about this. You see, look, now you've got to learn. This is what we were talking about actually in nature. Now, say for example, Celeste is there in Sydney, and this person Anil is also there in Sydney, right? Now you are born as a female, right? And you are born with your own destiny and your own set of circumstances and where you want to head. Similarly, Anil is also, born in India, came to Australia, and then I work. I'm a grandfather. I've got a wife, to look after, right? I also have a daughter, she has a disability. So these are basically our individual circumstances in which everyone has to work. We have to obey the laws of that particular plane in which we are in now. We are actually in that physical plane, right? But in spite of all these things, you see, you have this thing inbuilt within you that you can do everything without actually judging and being selfishly oriented, right? No,
Okay.
so that's exactly. But this is not going to come about simply because we are having a discussion and a talk. You see, I always say that, look, in order to attain this, you have to work your way towards it, right? And that comes exactly what you're saying is by one, which is very important, rationally thinking about it, analyzing it, right? Understanding it. And when you have the clarity, and then you see how it can actually be brought about, right? And that's basically the way to go forward. Because okay, let me actually add this,
I love that you're getting so excited.
Yeah, today morning only I was actually reading about this. Don't forget, you see, this is also both at the macrocosmic level and at the microcosmic level. Whatever we do, whatever our motivation is, in the end, even your desires, why are actually your desires of objects, or why you are so judgmental? Because you want happiness, isn't it? Look at it. Anything that you do, one has to be very, very honest, right? Be very honest to yourself. Whatever you do, however you do, in the end, the motivation hidden behind that is that you want to be happy by achieving that, right? Now, the thing is this, that the difference which comes here is that, you see, that is conditioned, that is relative. I've given so many examples in that video. If your boyfriend doesn't like you the way you are, or doesn't like your opinion, she throws a tantrum at you, and you don't actually like that, right? Whereas what absolute happiness is acceptance, right? Understanding, right? And then you see, unconditional love is not just a very small thing. Unconditional love comes with that, even though the conditions may be there, but you are actually, you see, your own thinking and your own viewing has advanced to such an extent that it is virtually universal. You can look at that other person, you can accommodate, whatever their thoughts or feelings are, whether they are good or they are bad, and then work with it. But how many people actually do that? You see, this is a very, very rare achievement, even in the present times, even when we've got everything, around us, all the material benefits. But so that is really what's we're talking about absolute
Anil,
happiness.
Yeah. The next question, and I mean it respectfully, just so I can get a story around where you got to. What makes you an authority on absolute happiness? Why are you someone that feels driven, spontaneously or not, to talk about absolute happiness and share it with others?
Okay, so I mean that's an interesting question. Let me answer it as concisely, as briefly as I can. You see, look, when actually you are born, you see, though one may not be able to express that, but every human being has something hidden within them which they want to achieve in this life, right? I mean, if you talk to anybody who has actually, reached a mature age, girls say uh, 24 or 25, and say men 28 or 29, right? There's a level of maturity coming in. So since when I was a little boy, you see, all that I wanted was some sort of a security, right? Because it always troubled me to be in this human form, even though I was very, very intelligent, actually. But what I was actually searching for, I never found it until I was about 34 years of age in 1993. And I'm an engineer, right? I believe in very logical and reasonable and relative thinking, right? I want proof for everything, right? So that is when this master Bianca Juno appeared, and that's when I experienced the what you call the rising of currents or kundalini in my body, and 60 million of my brain cells actually became active. I became like a enlightened machine, right? A normal human being utilizes only maybe 4 million cells, brain cells, in their entire lifetime, right? But even after being with this Rishi, Master Bianca Juno, for nearly 7 years under his guidance, and having read more than about 15 or 1600 books, the very best books in spirituality of the masters, I couldn't find that thing what I was searching for, that security, right? So then the Rishi introduced me to Sage Ramana, and then I was with Sage Ramana from 2000 till nearly 12 years, until, you see, on 21st of September 2016, suddenly actually it dawned that what I'm actually searching for is right here. It is around me. It actually never left me, right? And that is this very simple consciousness. That is why, you see, to where I reached, you see, there is a lot that one has got to really sacrifice from one end, because you have to have this burning desire actually to reach there. Now look at it. So you see, this consciousness that which we are actually talking about, it is changeless. It is ever present. Look at it. And this is the very source of our thoughts and the very source of our feelings. There's a very famous poem, awareness is everywhere. It is at all times. It is here and it is now, right? You experiment with it. And this is actually true, right? So whatever Anilji
Can you say that again? Can you say that again?
Yeah, sure. I'm talking. I start talking a bit fast.
No, but it's good.
Flow. Yeah. Awareness is everywhere. It is at all times. It is here and it is now, right? Just these 4 lines. They will always be true, because whether it is Celeste or Anil, you see, before you do anything, you have to be conscious of it. Consciousness is present. Then in between, consciousness has to be present while we are doing whatever we are doing. And when that doing is finished, consciousness is still there, right? And actually, when you look at it, I'm going to be absolutely honest here, right? We have no other security. We have no other security in our life other than this consciousness or the reality, because this is one thing which never changes, right? And everything else that you do is temporary, and it's going to drop off no matter how dear it is to you, right? See, I told you I'm an engineer. You test it out. So that is when it actually dawned on me that this is a self, or this is the God that, this Rishi and Sage Ramana have actually been trying to teach me for since 93, long time till 2016, right? That's it. The moment I had, this feeling or this experience, it has never changed after that. And after that, slowly, I've sort of taken on, the role of a self-emphasized prophet, to help others also to attain or actually to reach there. But as I go further and deeper into it, I see, you can't run away from the day-to-day life, as I was actually telling you. And not a lot of human beings actually realize that we are at the end of an era. And we are at the start of a golden era. So if we want really to enter into that golden era, we have to, there is no choice for us. We really have to move actually in that direction, right?
Do you know what? How come in the West we don't talk about eras like this?
When you talk about this, they do. The question is, and actually it is the West which is spearheading in this direction rather than the East, right? You'll be surprised. But it is the question, but you got to look at it, that are you searching in the right way, right? There are, I mean, look, I've come from the East, but my Rishi, this Master Biansa Duno, is from the West, but he has introduced to me to so many people just during the last 1 year. I mean, if I go into that, the next 1 hour, we'll be talking about, this person I've been communicating with in the last 3 weeks. He has actually written, about nearly 5 books. Each book is about 300 to 400 pages, explaining actually about all this. What is the future blueprint of mankind? He's from Europe. There are many people from Europe who are actually.
Do you know what, Anil? Can you talk about the golden age and the cycles? So, why is this important information for us to know if the golden age is hundreds of years and we're only going to be around for, in our physical body for however many years?
Yeah, okay. Look, that is actually an interesting topic. First of all, let us understand this one very simple thing, that basically, that's why I always go back to Mother Nature. You see, there is a stop and there is a start, right? There is a ebb and there is a flow, right? That is what basically our life is. To give an example of these, when we breathe, there's a point you stop, you breathe outward, and then that breath comes to an end. Then you breathe, say, inwardly, right? When you think, there's a point every thought comes, it lasts for some time, and then it finishes. Whatever you do, you test it out. This is again what we call as creation, preservation, and dissolution. There are many laws in nature, but this is the one basic law after space and time which runs through this entire nature, right? Whatever you do, there's a start, you sustain it, and then it finishes, right? Test it out. Only then you will really understand about the golden age. Similarly, you see, they say that in the Sanskrit language, they say that there is Jagriti and there is Pralaya, right? Jagriti means that there is light, and then there is darkness. And isn't that you look at the day-night cycle, right? You have the day and then you have the night. So there is this, so there will always be light and there will always be darkness. And exactly on these are built as what we call as the yugas or the chains or the cycles of evolution, right? Now I'm going to throw the picture a little bit more widely here. Rather than going into statistical things or mathematical explanations, you see, most of the human beings who are actually present today were present about 3.5 million years ago, which was actually called the Atlantean period, right? And if I go back another about, say, period before that, 5 to 7 million years prior to that, and going back up to about 18 million years from now, there was what we call as the Lemurian period. Right? And if you actually open any book of geography or just go on the Google, look at how the world was, right? Previously, India was a part of America. Then over time, segregation has occurred, and how, the continents and Earth is actually reshaped, right? So what happened during the Lemurian period? You see, this is what happens every time. When we go against the laws of nature, then nature takes drastic steps. Nature destroys us. Not that nature is against us. Nature loves human beings, but it is only for our own betterment, right? So that is actually when these great, what you call earthquakes had actually come, right? And the Lemurian period was finished. We were there as well, right? You were there. I was there as well, right? Then we came into what you call as the Atlantean period, right? Now, these Atlanteans, to tell you the truth about them, we were so advanced that we had started working with light. And virtually we had learned how to fly like birds. But what we did was that, again, the little selfishness, relative happiness comes in. We wanted to control nature, right? We want to overpower the things which we were used to expose and share with everyone. So what happened? It became so bad that, there was this, what they call as the Great Flood. And within 48 hours, this entire continent of Atlantis, it actually sank. And, and if you want proof of this, because science always wants proof, you go and look up on YouTube. There is this, the Atlantean city by National Geographic, right? There's a 45 minutes documentary on it, and marine scientists from Germany and from the UK, they've actually gone down and they've actually found that entire city, right? So you can see it with your own eyes. Then I'll give you another example. You see, we find all these dinosaurs, the kids are very fond of dinosaurs. I buy a lot of toys for my grandkids, but there was this dinosaur age, right? And then at one time they ruled all over Earth, and then the ice age came. A meteorite came over our physical sun, and virtually the temperatures fell so low that the poor dinosaurs were just frozen into the ground. And today we are finding their bones, right? So you've got to understand that this ebb and flow, a stop and a start, is actually there. But what has happened is that this present age, which we call as Kali Yuga, or what we are calling as the Black Age, right? This started about 3,100 years before Christ, before Jesus Christ, right? And now it ended in 1999, right? But the sins that human beings have actually undertaken or done during this period has never been as black as this so far in our entire history. And when I say, okay, I'm looking at you, what is the history of Celeste? You're not just 40-year-old girl or a 45-year-old girl. In actual fact, you are actually almost 14 billion years old. For 14 billion years, you have been transitioning just on Earth alone, right? These are mega facts, right? But I'm just putting in so that we can get a little bit of an understanding. Now, you see, what happens is that there are these cycles, the mini cycles, right? The bigger cycle is about 25,600 years, right? And in that, there are these smaller cycles of 2,160 years, right? And that is how the cycles actually change, right? So you see, this is called, one cycle is called a yuga in Sanskrit, and it is called just use the term cycle in our English language, right? So you see, every 2,160 years there is a change. New things come. If we start tracing just our present, actually we can actually see that, right? The mini cycles. Now basically what is happening is that we are going from this black age into what we call as the golden age.
In our day-to-day lives, why is this information of value?
Okay, let me answer it directly, right? From 1945, right, we have got 270 years to change the course of our direction if we put in the effort. Because what has happened is that from 22nd of March 1914, you see, our entire solar system, along with the sun and the planets, has lifted, you see, to what we call as the solar vibrations, which are more pure. There is no vibrations of what we call as blackness, because we are all traveling in our own galaxy, right? I can go a little bit more deeper into that. So as a result of that, that is how you see, because we are all affected by what the vibrations are around us, right? So what has happened is that from 1945, there is going to be like one wave of roughly 50 years. then another wave of 50 years, there will be 40 such waves, right? And when these 40 waves have sort of finished and each wave is stronger than the previous wave, right? Then what we call as the golden age or the sixth root race will be fully established on earth, right? And you see, the amount of people who will be accommodated on this present earth will only be 1 billion, right? And what you find is whatever is actually happening around you now, you will see that this will continue to intensify and increase. The first wave started in about 1945 and finished in about 1993, roughly 50 years, right? The second one has now started in 2003 and will finish in 2043. It is even stronger. So really, when you look at it, we have got so much now around us and we have got so much help that but you see, the driver has got to come from within every individual, that we have actually got to grow spiritually. Now, this may not actually look good, but I would like to actually state that if this effort is not made by individuals, then we will be thrown so much out of course of our own evolution that it could be easily a billion years before this opportunity actually comes again, right? Because what we call as God, or what you call as Christ, or what you call as the higher masters. Who the higher masters are? Like Buddha is a higher master, Krishna is a higher master, Jesus Christ is a higher master. They are the ones really serving God, and they are his true representatives. Now they have totally taken things in their own hand, and what you call as that God wanted to establish this paradise or the kingdom of God on earth. That's exactly where we are heading towards, right? But that paradise is going to be not that I'm running after my little selfish things, if I can help Celeste in some way, and it's not really costing me anything, I don't even bother even to connect. All those things are going to go. These things are going to be completely washed, because as I told you about the earthquakes which came during the Lemurian period, as I told you that, the great flood came during the Atlantean period, now there will be earthquakes for 40 days. But in addition to that, there will be fire, and everything on this earth on which we are living and as we know it is going to come to an end. And then will actually, start the new wave or the phase of human beings. So I think it is time, many as it is possible, woke up, to this, because it's not only me actually who is talking. See, that is what we talked about, that you said that not many people know about it, but that is not true. There are many people in this world present now who actually know about this. They have written about it. It's a matter of that individual to wake up and to sort of go actually in that direction, right? Now, look at people keep on talking about this. You open the news and they only talk about coronavirus, right? But very few people actually know that this has not come from evil or from darkness. This virus actually is something initiated by the spiritual hierarchies. Why? Because, as I said, cleansing is taking place in human beings.
How do you know that it's come from a spiritual hierarchy? Like it's a big call.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that yes, you can say it that it's a big call, but it's not only just me actually who has said that. There are quite a few people in Europe as well who have come out with that same opinion, right? But how actually I'm able to tell that? That's another detailed discussion. But I have that psychic ability within myself where I'm able to communicate with the higher beings. And especially, I communicate with Sage Ramana and I communicate with Master Biansa Duno, right? And Master Biansa Duno actually is one of the few who had come from the hierarchy to open up the gates for the coming of the sixth race, right? So when I communicate with them, and I communicate with nature as well, right? And these are the answers which I get. So the answers which I get, as I said, I'm an engineer. I look around and I see, well, what they have said, is it actually correct? And what they say actually is correct. Because look, before this virus came, we have been busy running day and night. Families did not have time to sit down and to talk to each other. But what it has done is, it has shut down everything, right? And there you are for 2 months, you're having like a paid holiday, sitting at home, your kids are there, your wife is there, maybe your parents live with you if it's a joint family system, and actually you're able to, for the first time, communicate. And you've got time to think, where you are actually heading, rather than, be in this mad race of simply just earning money, or just, you're busy with your watching videos, busy watching movies, busy with your girlfriend or boyfriend. That's all been cut completely. You see, this is cleansing. Look at it. It's cleaning up, and this will continue.
And
right?
what is it cleaning up?
So,
distractions?
No. It's cleaning up the sins that we have actually committed. It is what we call as the cleansing, which is occurring in human beings from two perspectives. One, it has given us rest. It's trying to give us peace, and it is trying to, force upon us now to think, where are we heading? Right? Because now it is going to be, you see, this Zoom has come, or Facebook is there, or YouTube is there. You got to look at it. This is basically the dawning of the golden age, because in the golden age, all these religions are going to disappear, right? There will be sort of a uniformity right across earth. Everyone will have to live like how, a brother and a sister lives in a very pure relationship and a selfless relationship with each other. That is basically where we are heading. And that is why you've got all these cross communications. We don't look behind what is actually all that happening, but we are heading in that direction. Right? That's why nature has opened this up. I put this question to Mother Nature, and I said, oh, well, when I was in meditation, I said, still, people are still suffering, with this virus. Is this going to continue? And you know what she said? She said that, look, I haven't stopped the sunlight. I haven't stopped you from going to the petrol pump and filling your car and go for your shopping. I haven't stopped the oxygen that actually you are breathing. I haven't stopped you that you cannot go out of your house and have a short walk. I haven't really cut anything. What I've cut is that I've asked you to sit down and reflect and think, where are you going? Right? So this is only this much. But you see, one way or the other, take it. And I'm telling you that now, you see, we are talking about how we will be in the next 3 years. We are making all these future plans. Economy will grow. This will happen. That will happen. But one thing or the other is always going to be there. We are going to be troubled, and we need to start taking notice of that. Right?
We're going to say that again?
We have to start taking notice of that. Right? We are not going to be, no, we can't just simply sit and carry on the way we have carried on. It's not going to be like that at all. And as I have said, that from 1945, you've got about 270 years. So you can, count the eggs in your basket.
Do you know, Anil, it's so funny because it's challenging getting your head around consciousness and awareness consciousness, and the whole golden age and thousands of years from now is just a whole different ball game.
Yeah. But the thing is that, look, even if you look at this, say, the 1 hour discussion that we had, right? If say one were to honestly actually listen to what has actually been discussed, I suppose that it puts one on the path. If you really reflect upon that, you see the human mind is actually so beautiful that, logically you can connect things. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
All that you've got to do is you've got to move logically, right? That is why, I now guide a lot of people all over the world, the Rishi asked me to make these videos on YouTube, and I was actually surprised that in about 4 months, we have got about 900 hours of viewing. About 26,000 people have actually watched, right?
Mm.
So there are
and
means.
Why is I've only gotten through 3 questions.
That's all right.
No, but I just. Why is spirituality important?
Yeah, you see, look at it.
Really simple terms.
Yeah. Look, when I look at, say, okay, at one time, let me take my own example, right? Say Anilji is there, right? Now, my name is Anil, but in India, when you talk to someone respectfully, you call them G, Anilji, like we had, like Mrs. Celeste, right? Not just Celeste, right? Respectfully when you call. So there is a good side to every human being, and there is a bad side to every human being, right? And basically, when you look at it, the battle is within. We are really battling with our own demons, right? There's a good chunk of us which is good, and there is a good chunk of us which is bad as well, right? And the thing is this, that most of the time we are only following our own emotions and our own desires, and you see, they can be very, very misleading, right? So what happens is that when you see, that is why right from ancient times, when we look at our present times, there has been actually religion, right? There has been what we call as mysticism, right? There have been what we call as sages, right? And everyone in a particular religion follows his own religion. But when you look at your own religion as well, and when you look at the prophet who actually started that, their teachings are very pure, and their teachings are very simple, right? Say, for example, look at the Muslim religion, right? Or you look at the Punjabis, right? So Muhammad was a vegetarian, right? And when you look at the Punjabis, Guru Gobind Singh, who started this Sikhism, the Sikhs, the ones with the turbans, he was actually vegetarian, right? But what has happened is that because of Kali Yuga, what we discussed, because of the Black Age, you see, all that has become, and a lot of filth actually has been added to that, right? And that is how it is. This is how the cycles of nature and life is. It is the battle between the good and the bad. So the thing is this, that is why you have this spiritual life, which actually helps to purify you, to really understand, to know, and to really enjoy. Even earth is a paradise, but do we really enjoy it the way that God has given it to us? Not really, right? So that is why it is of utmost importance to have a spiritual life in whatever way it may be. You might follow somebody you like, you might like to read about something, you might want to reflect on certain things. Spiritual life is very important, because until you have got a spiritual quest, how are you actually going to grow and get out of the daily grind, right? So in very simple terms, that's why a spiritual quest and a spiritual life is of utmost importance, especially in the present times, right? And look at it, this Quirian virus has actually helped to go actually in that direction, because you see, you look at your life prior to that, we were busy, right? From morning to evening, we are running, we want to do this, we want to do that. The moment mid of March, around 21st of March came, for 2 months, we're just sitting here, right? Now look, I'm retired, I only work 2 days a week, but I had to tell my boss, so you're going to pay me for doing nothing. And I told her, in the meeting room, I don't really like that, right? But she said, Anil, don't worry, you're only working 2 days a week. There's half the staff sitting there full time who are being paid, and they're not doing anything, because we are purchasing ventilators and equipment and all that, because I work in health to fight the Quirian virus, right? So I got an opportunity being paid for 2 days. I work 2 days and I do spiritual work. I said, my boss wants me to do that. That is what I will do, right? So the thing is this, hasn't Quirian virus helped actually everyone to sit down and to reflect where we are heading? Because if you don't reflect and you don't go in that direction, nature is going to take care of all this anyway.
You wrote the book, Life Beyond Death. Yeah. And my question around this is, why is this important information for someone to know about life after death? Like, you know what, sometimes the challenge is just living now and staying present in this moment. How will this knowledge about death help us?
Okay. Okay. In very simple terms, right? First of all, this is another law of nature, reincarnation, which has been washed, or operated upon, in some of these scriptures of the West, right? But look at one thing. We are awake during the daytime. Everyone is awake and we are active. Then when the sun sets, we have our dinner, and then we sort of around 10 o'clock, 10:30, depending, varying a little bit, we go into a dream state, and then we go to deep sleep, right? When you're in deep sleep, you know nothing. Consciousness is there, of course. Your heart is beating, you're breathing, and so forth and so on. The blood is circulating. We're not really dead as in dead, right? Physically dead. And then we wake up in the morning. So you see, just like you wake up every day, what we call as reincarnation is you just wake up in another world, right? You really have to actually study this. Now, just cutting straight through every human being, right? If I say that Celeste is, 14 billion years old, and you have been actually around Earth, then you have passed through many lives. And when you go deeper into that, 3 lives we are like a female, and 3 lives we are a male. 2,160 years is the cycle. Roughly about 700 years of one life of this cycle of reincarnation, which the time has now changed, but briefly explaining. Now you see what happens is that when actually you are born, you see that is how nature has made it, that you completely forget from where actually you came or what you were doing prior to that, right? And you lead your physical life exactly as your question was. We just wake up in the morning, and we are only concerned with the present, and we do whatever actually has to be done. So I'm not saying that that's basically what we are actually supposed to be doing, but you see, always this question arises, and this is a basic question: from where did you come? Why did you come? Why are you doing what you're doing? And where are you going to go? Look at it. If you really look at this, this is a very genuine question, and it will be in the mind of every human being. Where you came, why you came, what are you doing, what you're doing, and where are you going to go, right? Which is answered in the day-night cycle, So basically, when you read this book, Life Beyond Death, you see, this is a very important aspect of one's spiritual quest. And in one interview, I had said in India, that this book is actually unique of its type in the world, because rather than read volumes and volumes about this actually gives you a blueprint, and it reawakens what is already present within us. Because when you finish your life in the physical world, you enter into the astral world, or the world of emotions. You enter your astral body. When you finish your life there, you enter into your mental body, which is the mental world, right? And then when you finish your business there, you are reborn based on whatever your sanskars, or whatever your karmas, or whatever your bank balances of karmas, and whatever you want to learn in the next life, you are reborn again. And so this cycle of rebirth goes on and on and on and on, until we come back to, or should we seek absolute happiness, or do we want to keep on going with this relative happiness of rebirths, right? So it is actually deeper. So once you know, and this is basically all the great sages have said, that if you want to find the truth, you got to go within yourself, right? And you got to put the basic questions, which I put: where do your thoughts come from? Now Celeste's thoughts are not coming from Anil, or from your husband, or from your father. They come from within you, right? Your feelings, they also come from within you. But how do they come, right? So this all connects slowly. You see, you can only know about reincarnation when you start experimenting with it and start knowing what's going on. And suddenly 2 and 2 connect together, and you get a 4, right? So this book, Life Beyond Death, gives you a blueprint of really who you are, right? And it helps you to fathom and actually go beyond a relative happiness to a state, I always say, the changeless state, because absolute happiness is ever present. What is absolute happiness? Directly connected to consciousness, not affected by this cycle of rebirth, the day-night cycle, or whatever it is. But you got to start somewhere. You just asked me about a spiritual life, so there you are. This is one of the quests, right? And a lot of people have actually read about this book at one time in 2013, 2014. In 2011, 2012, reached about 33 million people in 2 states in India. So,
you talk about reincarnation. If we are reincarnated in this life, how do we manage behaviors that don't serve us? Can we change them? Can we change?
Yeah. Look, you see, to tell you the very truth about this, to change one habit of ours, it will take 3 lifetimes. Right? No, this is a...
You know what, when people say 21 days, I think that's like it takes a lot longer than that, or maybe 100 days, but 3 lifetimes.
Yeah, because your habits still don't go. Look, I say that I'm in oneness with the reality, but I'm still Anil. right? And Anil has his likes and dislikes of the habits that he brought into this world, right? We are unique that way. But what you have got to realize is that one is our lower nature, which is actually quite corrupt and wants, things its way. And one is actually your higher nature, which is changeless. Now, that is the switch. If you go towards absolute happiness, if you recognize and realize your higher nature also functions in many ways from within you. A very simple example of that is attention. Look, we never pay or look at attention. One day I walked out of Chatswood station and suddenly, my senses were brought to my attention and I realized the presence of God there. Attention itself is
What
actually
was God
God.
doing at Chatswood Station?
Well, this is what happens. It doesn't matter, you see,
Yeah, no.
because I communicate with the reality all the time, right? So you see, wherever your attention goes, that is what you're able to focus upon. But what you do is that you focus on the object, you never focus on the attention. And attention itself is that absolute happiness or changeless happiness present right there, right? So your higher nature is capable of getting rid of all of your habits in one go.
Okay, so if you operate within your higher nature, then
Correct.
there's okay.
Yep. Then
It can help you manage or
yes.
dissipate.
So what happens there is that though your habits may not change, right? But your habits will no longer trouble you anymore. And you will not pay attention to those habits anymore because now your outlook has changed. And that is how suddenly you have washed away all your habits. Whereas if you were trying, this is everyone's experience. No matter how hard we try, we have got a particular habit. We make that same mistake every now and then, every 1 year, 2 years. It's the same old thing which comes back. Right? So you can work around it, but you can't change it completely. Now, I've got to be very honest in this, right? And how do we change it? That is what I call the prophets or the masters like Jesus Christ, Muhammad, Gautam Buddha, or Rama or Krishna. That is what they taught us, how to do that, right? That is why the religious scriptures, like the Quran or, like the Bhagavad Gita or the Bible stands out even till today because there is something in them which you will not find in the ordinary, day-to-day run-of-the-mill things, right?
If someone's on the spiritual path and looking for a guru, a spiritual guru, teacher, there's thousands of them out there. How do they discern between someone that is authentic and genuine?
Yeah, look, this is very, very simple, right? First of all, your true guru is your inner guru, which is we talk about. You see, consciousness is everywhere. It is at all times. It is here and it is actually now. There is no other greater guru than your own light of consciousness, right? You don't have to run or go anywhere. But your question is actually correct because at a relative level, we do need somebody who can actually guide us correctly, right? And Ramana Maharishi actually gave a very beautiful and a very simple answer to this, right? What he said was that if you are in someone's company, right, and you feel calm and you feel peaceful, right? Beautiful words, right? You feel calm and you feel peaceful. Now, peaceful is a very big thing, right? Then your own, your own intuition tells you, well, he is the person to follow. So then actually follow him. But unfortunately, that is not what happens. I wrote in one of my books that finding a true guru in the current world is like finding a needle in a haystack. Because what you find is that that guru himself has got a lot of holes within him as time passes, right? But this thing you cannot. The thing is that if you feel at peace and you find a serenity or a quietness coming around you in the presence of such a person, right? Then, you see, I don't consider anyone as a guru or a student. We are living actually in duality. Basically, all are same. But that is the answer to your question of finding a true guru.
I think that's one of the best answers I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Anil, that's so good.
Well, thank you for that.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Okay, just before we go, just give us some simple tips on how to manage thoughts and feelings that don't serve us. That play games in our mind, that, that internal dialogue. Well, what's some
Yeah,
simple,
yeah,
practical tips?
yeah. Look, the simplest and the most practical tip, right? I will actually tell you, and I'll tell you the source as well. Was actually Sage Ribhu in the ancient times, right? And he had written 2,500 verses on this reality, and it is called Ribhu Gita, right? And the sage Ramana actually told me that when I'm guiding others as one of the satsangs or the spiritual discussions, I should do only chapter 10 of that, right? And in that he goes quite beautifully. But one of the things he says is that there are many methods given by the ancient sages and in the scriptures, which is, like, you try to distract your mind by saying some mantra or something within yourself. You sit quietly cross-legged and you listen to some beautiful music of a waterfall or a lovely audio, right? You give time to yourself, relaxation, and whatever, So, but, and then we come to the three, which are very important. You see, one is actually reading, right? Reading the, uh, the correct things. Psychology comes very close to that, in which you can, it's of interest to you how actually you can overcome that inner battle of the demons, of the thoughts and the feelings going on within you. But then next to that is listening, right? Listening is, you go on YouTube, right? And in YouTube, you will find the most enlightened of human beings and their videos, right? So that listening is basically, you know, try to listen to someone who is far more advanced or experienced in this field than one may be, right? It's very simple technique. This is basically given by the sages. But the one that actually takes you across this river of, the battle which goes on within you is this word. Listen to it very carefully, right? Is reflection. Okay? So reflection is very, very important, right? Because you cannot overcome this battle until there is clarity in your mind. And clarity can only come by reflection, means reflecting upon your actions, upon your thoughts, where actually you are heading. And you will hardly find, even in the ones who are even the most advanced spiritual students, reflection seems to be missing, right? So try it out and you will actually find that this is actually correct, right? So absorb
Okay.
actually what I have said, it's I've just said in very simple terms what is the best actually. But then if you talk to Sage Ramana or you talk to someone who is enlightened, they always say that, look, because everyone is at different levels of their development, so what suits you at a particular time, right, which is actually the correct thing for you to do, whether it is just sitting down and doing simple meditation, right, or it is just, saying a mantra within yourself, or it is just that, you want to go to the church and you want to pray to Jesus, or you want to go to the temple and you want to pray to Lord Krishna, or you want to read the Bhagavad Gita. Whatever suits you at a particular level of your development, undertake that. Because it's not worth someone just saying something, and then if you're not up to that level, it's no good to you, right? And for that, listen to your inner voice, because this light of consciousness or something within every human being tells him, look, when you do something wrong, right, even when this thought comes, something within you, no matter, you may be a criminal or whatever you may be, something within you comes and tells you, look, don't do it. Listen to that gentle voice, and that is your best guide in this. But you can only listen to the inner voice if there is reflection in you, if you're reflecting upon it. If there is no reflection on what you do, you're not going to go anywhere, right? So,
and Neil, my last question is, I'm going to go back to the title of the podcast, You Don't Know What You Don't Know.
Yeah.
In your, how old, I don't even know how old you are, 60?
Well, I'm 62.
62 years, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And you're 62.
62 now, but then 14 billion years.
Oh, that's right.
To the physical plane.
For 14 billion, you're looking pretty good.
Yeah, and if you look at my real nature, then I'm ageless. You see, because me, as what you call as the reality or consciousness, does not come and go. Everything comes and goes in it. So that is really the answer to your question, right? Depends, as I said.
That wasn't the question. The question is.
Yeah. What's the question? Yeah.
In your 62 years of this lifetime, what has been that moment for you? You didn't know what you know what you didn't know, like that moment where something opened up.
Yes. Look. Yeah, okay. That's very
like
very
honestly.
easy,
Just for a comparison, my example, like the understanding of duality, really, maybe 5 years ago when someone explained it to me, I had never heard of it or understood it, and and as a result, it freed something in me about attachment to being right or wrong and all this stuff. So that kind of an example similar to that in your, experience.
Yeah. Look.
That one that we can relate to too. Okay.
Yeah. Look, the thing is that very very simple. You see, you look at one thing. Whatever we do, we are looking for happiness in it, right? But then let me take it a little bit further. In my own life, it had been that, you see, everyone actually feels insecure. Whatever we do, we want to feel secure in it, right? So the security that I was looking in my life was not the security of this world of space and time, which comes and goes. You could be the richest person in the world. You leave your physical body, your money is sitting in the bank, and you are gone, right? So what security did this money actually give you, right? You could have the best husband or the best wife, right? But when you go to sleep, you don't know who's sleeping next to you, right? And one day, when both of you leave your physical form, that scene has actually come to an end. That life has actually come to an end. So, and that whatever security they gave you during that lifetime is still temporary, because eventually Mother Nature has destroyed it, right? So, you see, I was looking for that ultimate security, and that is the security that I found, that, and that is what I live in, right? If you ask me, whatever I do, however I do, why I enjoy it, because, you see, this security, which I ultimately found, is not touched by anything, by whatever I may do, right? And that is the reality, the changeless reality, which in very simple words is consciousness or awareness or God or whatever name you may actually call it. We have now talked for 1 hour, but that reality is still present. And that's what I see all the time, right? And that is what I call as a real happiness, right? So that is my answer, to your question.
That's a great answer.
Yeah. Oh, well,
I just
thanks
got
for
a question.
That. Yeah.
Does security mean the same thing to you as peacefulness? Is it like a peace?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But it is but it is unbroken peace.
Yeah.
In which the waves of this, in which the waves of this life will be there. I'm not taking away that I don't go through periods of which we may call as suffering, right? But look, we can use it there, that, you see, pain is there. I cannot avoid pain. My foot gets crushed, I will get pain, right? But suffering is not there in it, right? And that is actually what we call as unbroken peace, not a relative peace, the peace which just comes and goes, that Celeste or Anil, and your hubby, we go out and have a nice dinner, right? That's very peaceful. We have our Christmas dinner, once a year, but it's temporary. It goes. What happens after the dinner, right? So this is unbroken peace, means that this thing which is there will always be there with me, no matter where I may be, even in 100 million years from now, right?
That's a lot of birthdays, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, okay. Just to add to this, you see, the human brain has got about 44 characteristics or attributes in it, and so far only about 7 are developed. And in 100 million years from now, the size of your brain will only be 200 grams, and it will carry everything in it, right?
Okay, I'm going to throw you a projection that someone told me. Like, this is quite far-fetched, but I'm going to put it out there and see what you think.
Yeah.
They said in 2060, we will be communicating non-verbally. So your thoughts will transist straight away without...
Okay. I'll just put my spin on that.
Please do.
It won't be actually in 2060, but exactly that's where we are transitioning towards or moving towards, right? So in 64,000 years from now, right, we will be more powerful than the physical sun. So much light will come through the human being, because this is what basically space and time is. This is where we are projecting and growing, right? That's why it is very, very important to understand that, look, the time for dreaming and doing silly things is over for human beings. You have to move forward. You don't have a choice now, because our destiny is decided. Now, this person, whoever gave you this projection, must be quite spiritually advanced. He will be there one day when you see, you'll be able to communicate just via thoughts, right? At the moment the reproduction comes, a baby is born, you know how the baby is born from a female. But a time will come when the reproductive organ will move to the throat. And a time will come when not only by thought will you be able to, communicate with others, but you will also give birth just by thinking of what you want. Can you imagine? That time is also coming, right? And you can have exactly the type of baby that you want, right? And then when these times come, the male and the female are not going to live together. The father will live with the daughter and the mother will live with the son, but they will live at the other end of earth, and then they will communicate by thought. So there you are, a few more spins for you on what you said.
Wow. My brain's just exploded.
Right. But all these things are there, right? This is not now new, because so many, great masters have come, from 1850, and they are continuing to come. And they have given so much knowledge. Even if you went through my own master or the Rishi, Master Byansa Duno, he gave 7,500 lectures, right? And there's only 4,500 left because the rest were destroyed by the communists. But everything what is needed for the present age is given beyond any expanse of knowledge just in those lectures alone, right? So there you are.
Okay, so if we want to live a universal life, a higher powered life, higher spiritual life, what's one thing I should do tomorrow?
It just be simple, that's all.
That's perfect, Anil. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Like my Rishi says that, don't complicate things, just keep them simple. Right? Because what you need is, not the knowledge, not actually whatever I've actually discussed. What you need, and what will take you actually through is humility. Right? And humility only comes with simplicity, not with ego. That is the true answer. So if you want to do something tomorrow, just be humble. Bring humility in you. That's all. That is the test, not the knowledge, for entering into the sixth race. Right? This is actually true and said by many masters.
Thanks so much, Anil.
Okay.
We're going to stop the recording now, but hold on. I want to chat to you a bit more. Okay.
Oh, gee.
Bye, everyone.